And the internet.
We are good.
Actually,
So now we are back into our public meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry I left off on your packet, not AD. For the stories of Waterville Valley, but that's the continuation of the discussion about Marvin's stuff.
Right, and I think Bob, you wanted to
Yeah,
look
so
at that.
I reached out to Dan Newton, which I'm sorry he's not still here, but to find out what the WBAIA perspective on this was. And it was basically, he said that there's some people that think that it's a good idea. And there's a few people that don't think that, including him, that they don't like to see people out there with on their phones. But he said that's kind of a generational thing. He said, I'm an older guy and the younger people are into technology. And so they don't have a clear position on it. I actually went to the website to find out who I should talk to. And their website, Kyle Stone is still listed as their treasurer. So their website hasn't been updated in some time. And I gather Dan's not the president.
No, it's Wheelock. I've talked to him. I
Warren,
Warren Wheelock. I've talked to him a couple times
So
about this as well.
So he said some people think it's a good idea, and he said Marvin, is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
He said Marvin has some good ideas, and so he said, so they really haven't taken a position on it as an organization. They chat about it, but they haven't had a meeting in a long time either, he said.
I sent them 2 emails asking for just to contact me and so that we can talk about it, and I've not heard anything.
So
Back
the
either.
discussion was about whether to fund this guy.
Yeah.
I guess my only concern is if this is we're talking about $100,000 project. Where's that money gonna come from? And are we just wasting $5,000 to just do the groundwork? But I'm not opposed to it after my little research, but I just, it sounds like it's a big project financially and I don't think the town ought to be spending.
Right, it could be. I mean, depends how far we want to take it.
Well, and I'd like to see the business plan.
Well, that was
See
that's
business
the
plan.
whole.
that's what we wanted to.
List of people that they say are supporting, well, are these people putting their money where the mouth is,
Well, the problem there has been the town having to ante up. I think I just got another email from Marvin. Marvin, what was it, yesterday? I think it was, and he's got another. Here it is, another letter of support from the Division of Travel and Tourism Development, Department of Business and Economic Affairs, State of New Hampshire. So he's been pursuing all these things, gratis, and we've got all these,
Well,
But-
Margaret just said it, the letter of support is just,
right,
I mean,
yeah, what a great idea.
yeah,
right.
I'm not gonna put up any money, but it's a great idea.
But when, but,
We've
yeah,
gotten money from that group before. though,
Oh, yeah.
for many
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
things,
for
yeah.
many.
Yeah.
right, and but that's the point, if
But
we can get
that's
some
the
kind of business plan, I think then we'd be looking at, okay, how much is the town?
And I think
Gonna commit here.
part of the charge is putting together the plan with a budget number, but also
Right.
putting the revenue side to that.
Yeah.
So that he can go back to these companies and these people who have said they've supported it. And how much of, if it's $100,000, how much of that can be grant money or
Mhm.
in kind or whatever it is from these organizations? To me, that's the question.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we've just never had a person put it down on paper,
and that's what we were,
And
right,
that's
and then
what
we
we're
can,
looking
then we have something to
Right.
actually,
present to town meeting
or it,
or not.
first sink our
whatever.
teeth into it and then
Yeah.
present to town meeting.
Yeah.
That was the idea, and I think I had a conversation, I don't know, many months ago with Mark saying that the AIA unwillingness to get on board here is a real
Right.
problem for us.
Yeah.
I mean, the question's going to be like, you asked the question, I mean,
Yeah,
That's a
But-
legit question.
and others are
We're-
gonna ask,
Town
why-
meeting's gonna
yeah.
ask that.
they're the
And-
hiking organization in town, and so I,
yeah, why aren't they jumping on
so I
this?
I guess
Yeah.
I'm a little bit. Negative on spending money on a project that. It's a little ambiguous at this point, but that's, I mean, we're only talking $5,000, but. We got a lot of,
We have a lot
we
of.
got a lot of
these adding up.
expenses coming down the
Right.
pike,
Mhm.
and so
I
I
do.
I guess I'm not too excited about it personally, but.
Shall I make a motion then to support the stories of Waterville Valley? How we want to handle the funds, Mark, in terms of what,
From contingency.
contingency. Not to exceed $5,000, and the purpose of which is to present to the select board a business plan that we could consider to determine whether or not we want to go forward with this project and put it before town meeting in March of 2023. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Okay.
And just to note, this 72-year-old uses her phone on the trails all the time.
Yeah, I don't, I've had conversations with,
Connection, but it sure helps with making sure that you stay on the trail and where you are on the trail.
I've had
how
a-
much longer you have.
couple long conversations with someone who's very much against the phone, but that person admits it's not the way the world is going, and whether you have a guidebook in your hand and or whether you have a phone in your hand, it's
Weighs
just
a lot more than.
right. It's an instrument for the use.
Exactly. It is a lot less than it can be.
Alrighty. Board concerns and directives. I had one. Just has to do with the Municipal Solid Waste Committee. I wanted to update my colleagues here on the board. We had a meeting yesterday, and once again, we failed to achieve a quorum. So we discussed it further, and with your approval, I think what the best thing to do going forward now is to in effect reconstitute this committee down to an ad hoc advisory group that we, the select board, can turn to if there's a particular issue we would like them to look at. So it's a long-winded way of saying that we will no longer have a municipal solid waste committee. However, from that discussion, there already sprung three people who would like to continue working on recycling issues as it relates to the new interim transfer station. One of the things that they have been doing under the committee was to look and see, once we got a plan as to where this was, how it's going to be configured and how much room we're going to have, what type of recycling that we may be able to do during this 4 or 5 year period that the transfer station is going to be up by beyond the lagoon. So if you both are in agreement, we will just set aside the Municipal Solid Waste Committee and move to an ad hoc group with this one project right now of looking at recycling at the interim transfer station.
so what's the reaction gonna be from that, the people that are on that committee?
Well, I mean, there were at the meeting yesterday, the chair, Mike Capel, concurred in this direction, to go in this direction. Wendy Rathgeber was also there, and she thought it was the best way to proceed. And one of the people who was on the recycling subcommittee was very much in favor of it. And I think that the people that are most interested at this point are the recycling people. So I think keeping a recycling ad hoc group and working on this one project at the moment, I think would satisfy them.
And then that way, if we get to getting a plan for the transfer station, you can say, take care of this one thing.
Yeah.
Because having a standing committee, it's a staff waste of time
Okay.
because.
It didn't work out.
agendas
I
that
mean,
didn't work.
I think it was before you came on the board, I think it was in March of this year. The board looked at it and we wondered, after a year, it had been up for a year, whether it was worth the time, and we thought, well, let's just give it some more time and see if it can work, and I think we've decided that
I mean, they did a good job on redoing
the ordinances,
selectmen ordinances and stuff
Right.
like that, but there's no
right?
real project yet.
No, I think there was, I think that also to fully answer your question, Bob, I think the recycling folks, recycling committee, I guess we can call them, or recycling ad hoc group, I want to stay away from the word committee. I think they'd also be very interested in exploring composting. That seems to be one of the bigger issues that they're interested as well.
And perhaps cardboard.
Cardboard, we're trying to fold that into the discussion of the new interim transfer station. Would there be a place to for people to bring cardboard? I think in our early discussions, I think that's gonna be a tough. That's gonna be a tough
I mean,
thing
I thought I
to
saw
do.
something where somebody had done some research and there was still money in cardboard.
Yes,
Yeah.
There is.
there is, and actually Jeff
Clean and
Soper,
dry.
who's.
Icon.
Yeah, Jeff Soper, who looks at these things as well as Cans, I think,
Mhm.
and Barbara as well. So I mean, we have some good people who, and I think they're very realistic as to what the town can support. So I think we could work with this ad hoc advisory group on recycling.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We good?
Yep.
All right, that's the only other concern I had, board, Margaret, Bob, anything? Correspondence.
So we got the email from Daryl Fernandez. I talked to town council. We reviewed the franchise agreement that we currently have, which runs through 2026. So we have for 3 or 4 years left in the agreement with Spectrum Charter Communications. It is not an exclusive franchise agreement,
So
so
somebody else
at
can come
any
in.
time, we could have another carrier come in. The problem is they would have to install infrastructure. And, anybody making that sort of an investment would want a pretty long-term agreement.
So what if we just sent a letter to?
Well, we've sent 2 emails to Spectrum telling them about the complaints that we've had. I've talked to one person. Did you talk to the other? Yeah. So we've talked to 2 different people at Spectrum. I think in both cases, we can address concerns, questions, but people have to call our customer service number that's on the bill when it's happened. And go ahead.
One other component too is I researched some other providers in the area and I just looked at their plan levels. So Spectrum's highest plan for data goes up to 1 gigabyte download speed. A lot of the other providers have business plans, which I could only assume if someone's operating their business out of the house, it's probably just one user, but maybe they're just hitting the data so hard all day long, it's causing a lag because some of the business plans that other providers go up to, I saw 4 gigabytes of download speed. And so I don't think Spectrum, from what I read and online, has that business plan. So maybe that's what's lacking here, is that they just don't have enough meat on the bones to provide somebody who's just online all day doing uploads and downloads and web conferences. Again, it's an assumption, but.
And as far as the franchise, which was Daryl's question.
Right.
What can the town do?
Yeah, what stick do we have?
There are minimum requirements in our franchise agreement. But because it was done so long ago, 11 years, those minimums are being met
Easily.
very easily. And so there wasn't an escalator, which we need to think about 3 years from now, 4 years from now, when we're doing it. We need to build an escalator in. The only escalator we have is that everything's subject to FCC rules. And they are meeting the current FCC minimums. So there isn't really anything under the franchise agreement we can claim as a material breach of the agreement. So we don't have any way to hold Spectrum's feet to the fire, as it were, right? And even if we did factually collect data that they were subpar, we would then go to court. And if the court, even if we won that court case, what does that mean? Spectrum packs everything up and leaves
Yeah,
town,
no.
and then we don't have anything. So, there's really nothing under our current franchise agreement that could foresee these types of situations that we're in right now. I think the next time we do this, we offer it to multiple companies, try to get another provider to come in here. The problem is it's such a small customer base that I don't think you're gonna get a second provider to come in on the off chance that they can steal 200 customers. It's just not, it's not a lucrative.
I mean, this is, I can't quite talk the language. But Scottish Dave McIntosh. He and Johnny B, that we play golf every Saturday morning, they're always talking about the internet and all the connections. Scottish Dave got T-Mobile on his phone, and for some reason from his phone, he can get it onto his computers in the house.
Hotspot.
Yeah, hotspot.
Yeah, hotspot.
And then, hotspot, and then he has Roku for his TV. So he said, his Spectrum's gone, and now he pays $50 a month
Yeah.
instead of 230 or whatever it was.
People have cut the cord.
And that
Yeah.
handles everything.
Yeah,
Hotspot, right?
no, I don't know whether the Roku can get local channels, but I don't know.
Most of them can, Vermont and,
Yeah.
Right, but so use T-Mobile, I mean,
He
Verizon's
said
the other big
the
one.
T-Mobile signal is unbelievable compared with Spectrum.
Right.
That's what he
Well,
said.
at T-Mobile, it's probably more competing with Verizon. Right,
hotspots.
Spectrum has just come online with their own mobile services, because I get ads for it all the time now. So I mean, on the cell side of things, I think we've got excellent,
Well, that's not in our
competition.
franchise agreement.
Right.
This is just.
this is the cable,
TV and.
this is the cable side of it.
Internet.
And right now Spectrum is the only service that provides cable. It also provides,
I mean, we
the
can
internet.
go out, we can go out and ask companies to come in and because we can have another franchise agreement. This is not exclusive.
Mhm.
It's just gonna be, there's no infrastructure for them to take over. They would have to install their own or piggyback on Spectrum.
What
So,
about the satellite
There's Starlink.
providers?
Starlink is a big.
well, Starlink, anybody can do. We don't have a franchise agreement with a
there's
a satellite company.
there's no infrastructure,
I mean,
right?
when we lived here, we had.
Direct TV or this,
DirecTV,
I
dish.
yeah.
I have Dish for TV,
So
but you don't get
you don't get,
Boston channels.
So I
so,
mean, it seems to me to
Spectrum-
satisfy the Daryl Fernandez kind of thing is you just, if the town just sends a tough letter or it calls up or something, that's about all we can do, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
That's it.
and we've notified them that people are not satisfied with service, that we have received. Calls, we have an email trail that we've done that. And the response that for people watching is you have to call them when it's happening to that customer service number.
And yeah,
Uh,
probably
because-
hold
And
on for
nothing
half
Because
an
when
hour.
we call,
And then
well,
nothing
that's
happens,
right, but
right.
when we call 2 weeks after or whatever, we're not gonna be able,
Yeah.
they're not gonna.
Of
do
course.
anything.
I often don't call because as soon as it happens, I get an email from Spectrum saying your service is out
Right.
in your area
Right.
and it's gonna be gone for a while.
Right,
Right.
I don't think it's those things though, it's just,
it's the bogged down service.
Yeah, and this
During
is,
the day.
I think, the issue that actually is quite important for the town, because we have a lot of people now doing remote work.
Yes,
And we have to be competitive
And-
as a town in that, but,
and
not
we
now,
should
yeah.
put Spectrum on notice,
Right.
in a couple of years, hey, we're going to. The franchise agreement is coming up on this date and we're actively searching for other services.
It's important to note too, hardware can be a big component to lagging speeds. I've replaced my modem twice and I've been in my house 7 years. My modem just went,
can't handle
This dies.
Right. it's why a lot of people just go into cell.
Yeah.
Or, an internet provider that way.
Good.
Okay, is Mr. Fernandez expecting anything from us?
Well, I'll respond to his
Okay.
email and tell him that we discussed it and I'll give him the same information that I just went over and,
give them some
Well,
options.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I suspect he won't be satisfied, but
well, I
Right.
mean, there
It's only
isn't
some- right.
a lot that the town can
Can
do
do.
at this point. And other than the fact that we're getting close to the end of the 15-year,
15-year,
it's
wow,
been a 15-year.
just the length of a
Franchise.
contract, but I guess the
Well, it's
investment
gone through different companies.
Well, yeah, it's
Spectrum
gone
used to be
from,
Comcast.
Yeah.
used to
be Time Warner, was it, or something,
Yeah.
but well, it's the investment, the infrastructure investment.
exactly.
Fairpoint, it
Fair.
was Fairpoint at one time, right?
No,
No, they
that's
were,
the telephone.
that was, yeah. Okay, non-public, do we need to go into non-public?
I just need to tell you one thing in non-public.
Okay.
It will be very quick, I promise.
Okay,
5 minutes.
so if that's it for the public,
And this is an update on a land purchase
Right.
situation and a personnel
Okay.
situation that I need to tell you.
on that basis, do I have a motion to go into non-public?
So
Yep.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's no Steve, well, I should say on these bases, I suppose.
So when I bought my place over in Maine, Fairpoint